So I realized too late that I did not actually film any of me mixing up the Yorkshire pudding batter or whatever you want to call it. And that's usually where I tell you what's in it. So I figured I would take this time before I show you how it turned out to give you the ingredient list and how the website that I found said that you are supposed to cook this. So, what you need to make Yorkshire pudding, at least according to the recipe that I found. Um, it sounds like there's a lot of different ways to make it. There's a lot of different recipes for making it. There's a lot of different containers that you could make it in. I plan on doing it in just my smallest cast iron skillet and making one big Yorkshire pudding. I did think about making it in little muffin tins and making little individual Yorkshire puddings, but I figured for this one at least, I was going to try to do it the way it said the most traditional way was, which was one large Yorkshire pudding. So I said, you know what? Hey, that's cool. And also, I did take this recipe for me and just cut it in half because I didn't think I needed quite that many considering there's only two of us here. So what you will need, and this makes either two pans, 8-inch cast iron skillets, or 6 individual Yorkshire puddings, is you will need 4 large eggs, 150 grams of flour, which is 5.25 ounces or a cup plus 2 teaspoons, 175 grams of whole milk, which is 6 ounces or 3/4 of a cup, 2 grams of salt, which is about a half a teaspoon, and 25 grams of water, or an 85th of an ounce, or 1 tablespoon with about 2 teaspoons added in. So that is what you're going to need. Also, before you make it, you need about 100 milliliters, is what they say here, of beef drippings, lard, butter, or vegetable oil. And then what you're going to do is you're going to mix up everything except for your fat, and you're just going to whisk it until it's smooth. It looks so much like a pancake batter. In fact, it's looking at the ingredients, it is almost a pancake batter. And the place that I got the recipe from, and also Mopsy J, who has been in my comments before and is actually from England, told me that it is best if you then make up your Yorkshire batter. I don't know if that made sense. Anyway, and stick it in the refrigerator for at least a day. The recipe that I found online said to definitely let it rest at least 20 or 30 minutes because you'll get a better rise out of it. We'll see if that's true or not, because I've never attempted to make this. I've never actually eaten it. I have no idea what it is supposed to taste like. So with that being said, let's get to seeing how it worked out. I don't think I'm going to film a lot of my actual cooking of the rest of the meal. It's just going to be a roast, some roasted carrots, mashed potatoes, and gravy. And hopefully a Yorkshire pudding, which hopefully will taste good. So let's get to it. So everything up to now has been my bog standard roast beef dinner. The roast is in the oven cooking, my carrots are roasting, my potatoes are boiling to be mashed. The only unusual thing about this dinner is the Yorkshire pudding, which I made this batter. Do you call it batter? Or do you call it... I have no idea what you call it. But I made it yesterday. As I have been told, it is best if you let it sit in the refrigerator for about 24 hours before you attempt to cook it. And I don't really have drippings from the roast or lard, so what I did was put some butter into this cast iron skillet because I'm going to make one big Yorkshire pudding. And that, just like with the cornbread, is going to go into the oven while the beef finishes cooking, and then in about 15 minutes I am going to take it back out, and I'm going to put the Yorkshire pudding into it, take the beef out and let it rest, mash my potatoes, and hopefully this all turns out good. Alright, I have my rested and room temperature Yorkshire pudding batter mix, whatever you want to call it. My roast is resting, my carrots are done, my potatoes are just about done, so I am going to take the pan out of the blazing hot 450-degree oven and carefully pour my batter in. It's probably going to do like the cornbread and do the whole sizzle thing. And then it's going to go in the oven for like 20 minutes, and hopefully it will do good things and rise and do all that other stuff it's supposed to do. I don't know. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. The burned butter is an interesting effect. Anyway. In we go. I'm going to move this rack so that it has room to rise. And set the timer for 20 minutes. Wish me all the luck while I make gravy and mash some potatoes. Alright, moment of truth. I have no idea what this is supposed to look like, but this is what it looks like. I mean, it did rise. I don't know if it was supposed to rise completely. I don't have a clue. But you know what? I'm gonna eat it. So I will show it to you when I get it cut, and I think it's supposed to be served with gravy? Question mark? I don't know. I am kind of curious though. Oh, it looks good. It tastes, I mean, I guess like bread. I kind of thought it would taste a little more pancakey, because that's what the batter reminded me of. But, yeah. Interesting. I guess we'll find out. I will show you my plate when I get it all made. Alright, well, there it is. I'm not sure how much gravy to put on it, so I think I'm just going to, like, dip it into the gravy. I did try a little smidgen of it in the gravy, and it was pretty good. It's interesting. The parts in the bottom, you can taste the egg in a lot more than the side bits. I think I like the side bits the best, but I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, I am going to have my roast and Yorkshire pudding. And wow, that comes out looking a lot more rare on camera than it does to my eyeballs. But yeah, I go for a medium rare usually. So anyway, bon appetit or whatever. Alright, we are back after eating, and my final thoughts. I definitely see why it was served before the meal, at least in all of the James Herriot books. It was always brought out before the meat course, because it doesn't feel filling when you're eating it, but then it kind of just settles into your stomach, and it definitely would help fill you up. So I can see that it would be a good thing to use to kind of stretch out the meat so that everyone doesn't eat quite as much of it. So I can definitely see it for that. I wasn't sure that I really enjoyed it with the gravy. I kind of think I like it better plain. Although it kept messing with my mind, because the bottom parts of it, the thicker portions, you can definitely taste more of an eggy taste, which kept making me think of either crepes or pancakes. And my brain was like, this is supposed to be sweet. Pancakes are supposed to be done with something sweet. And so it was creating a little bit of a disconnect in my brain. But overall, it was very good. We have a little bit of it left, which I have been told is very good the next day with either jam or basically something sweet. or possibly even just eating it cold is something I'm thinking about, because it might be like cornbread and be really good cold the next day. But overall, it was pretty good. Um, like I said, there was just this disconnect in my brain every time I would get a bite of it with the gravy on it, because my taste buds were like, all right, pancake, why are you putting this beefy, salty gravy on a pancake? And yeah, but once I got over that part where my taste buds were very confused, I can see why it's popular. So that is about it. We are going to try, I think the next recipe we're going to try will either be fish and chips or perhaps bangers and mash. I do have both of those in the freezer, so I could probably make either of those, and they both sound halfway decent. Like I said before, I'm not a huge fish person, but I am willing to give it a try. Actually, the only thing I don't have to make a really good fish and chips is I don't have any beer on hand, which I do know that beer batter is probably the most iconic batter. But that's about it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. If I did anything wrong in the Yorkshire pudding, please let me know, because I don't actually know if it tasted right or if it tasted wrong, because I've never had it. All I can go by is the fact that it was kind of pancakey, but not really, because pancakes are more fluffy. This one was more, not really dense. It was sort of bready, but sort of cakey, or not really cakey, but sort of, it was different. I've never had anything like it, but it was pretty good. I still don't understand calling it pudding, which is, I think, the other disconnect in my head, is every time as an American I hear the word pudding, I think of the, what we call pudding, like the chocolate or butterscotch or jello custardy type dessert, and to see this pudding, which is this big bready thing, my brain didn't really break, but it was definitely like, huh, okay, we're just gonna roll with this. But I think I will probably make them again at least one more time. I think if I make them again, I'm gonna try and make individual ones, because that just sounds like it gets even more of the edgy pieces, which were my favorite part. Like, I really liked the crispy bits more than the eggy bits. And when I say eggy bits, I don't mean that it was like soggy or undercooked or anything like that. It was just a little bit thicker, and you could definitely taste the egg more in the bottom as opposed to the sides. Anyway, it was pretty good. I can see why James Herriot likes it. I can see why it became a staple in Britain. And yeah, that was my first attempt at international food for a book. So anyway, you guys have a great night, and I'm going to insert a little bit of birds because, you know, I can't resist birds. Have a good night.